Welcome back to week 3 of the 20-year celebration of the Inner Child Workbook. This whole series is bringing the Inner Child Workbook into the 21st century. It is the new generation of inner child work. And what I mean by that is I'm expanding the inner child work to really show you how everything in your life that is not working can be traced back to those first 6 years of your life. But I even take it a step further. Because I am a proponent that we are here to do certain soul lessons, it's my experience and my belief that every experience we had in childhood, in the infinite wisdom of our soul, we charted that to resonate with a certain soul pattern that needed to be resolved. And the way that we get closest to that is to have some experience in this lifetime that triggers that. Now, you're going to hear more about that as we progress through the weeks and when we get really into the material that I developed when I wrote the book, Which Lifetime Is It Anyway? For today, we're continuing to build the foundation. We are going to talk about the function of addictions and the function of compulsions. So you're going to be introduced in a fuller way to the concepts of the codependent bargain, the bargain that you make with your caretakers to ensure your safety, and how you develop default coping mechanisms that then execute that bargain, execute a whole array of actions and reactions. And I call that the work of the cherished saboteur. So there's a couple videos on that. I started actually this week out with 2 radio interviews, one with EFT master Lindsay Kenny, and that's really the first time I ever publicly talked about interactive tapping. So that's a good foundation for this week's material. The next one is by Alina Frank, and she's an EFT practitioner. She's part of the EFT radio circuit network, and she interviewed me on the codependent bargain. So you're going to get a really solid foundation before you go into all the PDF files and more videos actually this week than the MP3s. So you're going to get a clear introduction to how the addictive behavior really serves to discharge that energy and how that compulsiveness really takes us away from the pain that we really need to grieve and resolve. You're going to get introduced to the 5 stages of grief as they apply to addictions. Now, next week, the whole theme is grief. I kind of switched it around a little bit. I had that later in this whole program. But you know, I realized as I was thumbing through the Inner Child Workbook that step 5 of every developmental stage that I take you through really deals with the grieving process. And so I want you to have a really firm understanding of that before we get into being specific with the inner children. So this week you get all the addiction information, all the compulsive information, and the umbrella of grief as it applies to that. Next week you'll get EFT for grief, for the 5 stages of grief. You'll get a couple more articles. When we get into the 7 layers of the 7 developmental stages, then I'm going to be following the book a little bit more, because one of the things I really want to do, in addition to bringing in the new material that I've developed, is I want to offer you the audio versions so that it can make your work through the workbook much easier. You can just turn on the MP3 and listen to my voice, and I guide you through the exercises. So after next week, we'll begin the progression through the developmental stages. So welcome, and thanks for your interest, and I think you're in for a lot of information again this week. So be well, and bless you for your journey. It takes a lot of courage. Thanks.